All right, so I think we're ready to get going. So welcome everyone to From the Collections, to our October session of From the Collections. I'm joined today with Maverick Kawamoto, so we are both wearing masks. So we're gonna try and talk loudly and clearly enough that you can all hear us. But do let us know if you're having any trouble and we'll make sure we're speaking up. So this is our returning fall series called From the Collections. We started this last year as a response to the pandemic. We wanted to be able to still share our stories with everybody. So we came up with this program. We're really lucky to have such a beautiful and vibrant archive at the Historical Society with more stories than we could ever even hope to tell. We have so many stories to tell. And so this program really focuses on trying to tell more stories that maybe don't get brought out all the time, and partnering with local community members, organizations, businesses to hear their stories. So today we are at a new location. For those of you who are signing on right now, you're going to notice that I am at a new location. I'm here at Konawaena High School in the Konawaena Museum with Maverick Kawamoto. October has been a very special month for our community as we celebrated the centennial year of Konawaena High School, 100 years. It's been a really fun month, and even actually I think they did some things over the summer to watch all of the things come together. They have a beautiful booklet I've gotten to read, highlighting some of the history of Konawaena High School. There's so much good history that we're going to hear from Maverick a little bit later. And so when we selected our topic for this program, we knew that we had to incorporate Konawaena into it. This program is going to be recorded and shared across all of our platforms. So if you have to leave early or you miss something, it will be available immediately on Facebook, and it'll be available within the next week up on our website and our YouTube page. Finally, at the end, there's going to be a survey that pops up on your screen. If you don't mind waiting until that survey pops up and giving us a little bit of data that helps us with our funding and our grants, our grant reporting. So if you could do that, that would be wonderful. So last year, following our From the Collection series, we launched a fundraiser to get our archive sort of remodeled or refreshed, and we were able to create a new research space where you can now come in, you can make a reservation, and if you have a topic that you're working on for your business or just your family, you're able to come in now and do research on Fridays. So we want to really encourage everybody to be curious about their stories, come and see what's in our archive. Konawaena High School, or this project, involved us, the founding of their museum. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk around with Maverick. He's going to show us around the museum. He's going to point out a couple of things that came from our archive and lots of things that he's collected so carefully throughout his years as the curator of this museum, curator and founder of this museum. Before we turn it over to him, I'm going to go ahead and introduce him. So Maverick Kawamoto is a 1977 graduate of Kohala High School, but in his 38 years working within Konawaena High School, he's had a very special journey. From his start in September of 1983 to his retirement in June 2015. His tenure as agriculture teacher allowed Maverick to meet, teach, enrich, and especially mentor many young minds. He has continued working on campus through several nonprofit organizations. He's the curator of this museum, and he's a substitute teacher. So Maverick's going to show us around. He's going to take us through the inspiration for this project and a lot of the really, really amazing objects and stories that they're able to tell here. If you have questions as we go ahead and just leave them in the chat. We'll get to them probably at the end or maybe throughout. We'll see how it goes. But make sure you just put them in as soon as you have them, because we definitely want to get to any questions that you have. All right, I'm going to switch over to Maverick. We're just going to switch cameras real quick. So just 1 minute.
So, hello everybody, and welcome to the Konawaena Museum. If you joined us a couple weeks ago, we had our centennial celebration. We so much wanted to do it live, but we had to do it virtual. And the committee worked very hard to put it together, and it was a wonderful show. And I thank them for that. And this is our centennial souvenir booklet you can purchase from us. And this week, this high school put out a paper the school paper, and it's a Centennial edition, 100 Years of Greatness. And I agree totally with that greatness. Konawaena had a great 100 years, and I'd like to show you part of it in our museum today. Hello again, welcome to the museum, and I'll go through some of the highlights of the museum. Back here, we have a frame of the school history, and we have some old pictures of Konawaena High School Elementary, which actually started in 1899, where the public library sits in Kelikikua. That's where the school first started. So the elementary school started a long time ago. And we have some diagrams of the school, which kind of changed over the years, but it's pretty cool pictures of it. It's kind of similar to what it is today, but a little different. But it's good artifacts. It's a lot of history. And as you move on, as we know, Konawaena was based on coffee. And this picture here, if you can see it, this is from the archive from Kona Historical. When you're coming up Konawaena Road, everything on the right-hand side of the road was all coffee trees. And Konawaena had a unique schedule. From 1932 to 1968, Konawaena was on a coffee schedule where their summer was August, September, October, and I think through November, I'm not sure. But because of that, Konawaena didn't have football for over 30 years. But they had a unique schedule where students helped their families and farmers pick coffee. And this fact right here, Konawaena students picked 47,922 bags of coffee during the season. And that's a lot of coffee. And the wall back here, this whole museum was built by students. So students painted this picture of the coffee trees in the background. This is our coffee section in the museum. And they did a great job. Moving on to the museum, here's a cheerleader uniform that was donated by a graduated Renell Divina in 1984. And she donated to the museum, which we thank her for. And as we move on, here are some pictures of the farm. Those of you remember, we used to do a KK Fun Farm Day up here on the farm where the communities you come out and support the farm. And we had great fun. We had bouncing castles, live music, horse rides, and we did it for 10 years. And this window here, it's a frame that came from this building. Actually, this building here is the oldest building on Konawaena campus. And it's appropriate to have the museum here. And this is part of the agriculture wall. And we'd like to share some interesting things we had on the farm. One was a two-headed pig was born here. It didn't live long, but it was interesting. And if she can show this picture here, we had a miniature cow. And we had potbelly pigs. We had donkeys. And if you ask why we had so many animals, that our farm used to be a penny zoo. And we still host preschools, elementary schools throughout the year. And I think every year we average about between 1,000 and 2,000 kids came to the school to visit the farm. And that was super much fun. As we move on, here is some of our technology, so-called technology. Right here is a typewriter. Anybody remember what a typewriter is anymore? But this typewriter was donated by Mrs. Crozier, and she was a health nurse at Konawaena High School. And then we moved on, Konawaena moved on to electric typewriters on the bottom. And today, I don't think you can find a typewriter on campus. But here's another interesting fact. This laptop here, this is Konawaena's first laptop, was bought in, let me check the date, I think 1994, if I believe. And the school could only afford 4. And the cost was $4,600 for one. And so the school only had 4. And today in 2021, the school supplies a laptop for every student in the classroom. So we can see how far technology came. And we're thankful for that. As we move on here, as we know, Konawaena had a lot of important graduates. We had Radiano on the top, Raymond Transfiguration, Alison Onizuka. But we also felt that anyone who came to Konawaena was important. So we made this well, hey, you somebody. And the most important graduate of Konawaena is when you stand here and say it's the most famous Konawaena graduate. And when you look in the mirror, you see yourself. So you are the most important graduate for Konawaena. As we move on here, on this wall, we have the solo car, which in 1990, they went to Australia, and they, as a high school team, they went against big companies, and they won the race. So Konawaena did great in that path. They also, here's a proclamation that Konawaena High School was the only high school in the country to go across from West Coast to East Coast. And this is part of the car. And they traveled some 3,000 something miles. I'm not sure exactly what year this was, but that was another first for Konawaena. Konawaena had a lot of firsts. There, as the newspaper said, there were a lot of greatness at Konawaena. As we move on to this wall here, this wall is a lot of people who visit the museum donate their class reunion pictures to us. So we have class of 64, class of 59, class of 41. So a lot of people came to visit the museum. And some of you may remember this. In 1974, there was a fire at school that burned down part of the main building. And yeah, some of you have stories about that one. As we move on to this wall is some pictures of the school in the past. And let me point out some interesting ones. This one here. This also came from the Historical Society. This is one of the first pictures of the high school. And I know maybe you can't see it, but if you look, all their feet, they're all barefoot. And somebody once told me that you could come to school barefoot until the 7th grade, then you had to wear shoes. So here's a comparison. This one of the first students of Konawaena, and here's students from, I think this is 2018 or 19. So this is 100 years of greatness in Konawaena. And right here we have a principal walk. So we did footprints for all the different principals, from the very first one, Clyde Crawford, 1921, and surprisingly, we're here today because I'll show you the present principal. I'll lift up the platform.
All right.
Mr. Son Suzuki, and coincidence, today's his last day, he's retiring. Today's his last day at the school. So another history is being made today.
Wow.
It's great timing.
Congratulations to him.
Yes, he taught here, he was principal for 20 years. And we also, Konawaena, we know was great at sports. And one of the greatest achievements was the girls basketball team. In 2000, they were 4-peat state champions from 2014 to 2018. Congratulations to them. And you think that girls basketball was something recently, but no. Konawaena's first girls basketball team was in 1926. So that's almost 100 years too of girls basketball. Another first for Konawaena is, I don't think you can see it very good, but this is a diploma or certificate, Future Farmers of America. And Konawaena High School was the first chapter in the state of Hawaii. It wasn't the state at that time, but we were the first in Hawaii. And it was in 1929. And another first for Konawaena was the state always has state officers from different chapters of the islands. And Konawaena was the first to have a female state president. In 1986 to 1987 was Renette Haleemao. She was the first female state president in Hawaii. And she did a really great job. And we thank her for that. As we journey on, this is another milestone for Konawaena too, the Wildcat Newspaper. I showed you earlier the latest edition this week, but the newspaper actually started in 1925. And we got some copies. We got actually a copy from 1925. We got one from 50. We got from 49. This one's here is 64. And we're very fortunate to find copies of this. And, how we found it was when we look at your old yearbook, some people stuck their newspaper in the yearbook. That's how we got it.
Wow.
So we're glad for that. Another first for Konawaena, not history-wise, but I'd like to show you these two students, Kara and her brother Nicholas. You see it? Why they're important was they did something that I couldn't do. But both brother and sister had 0 absence from kindergarten to senior year.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's rare. That's got to be pretty rare.
Because I blew it in kindergarten. But they never missed school. Brother and sister from kindergarten to high school, and they attended Konawaena High School.
So they've earned a place in the museum.
They earned a place in the museum for sure. This interesting stuff, you old timers can remember. This was a school bell before, for lunches, for fire drills, and there's several later on campus and they would bring it at the same time. And as we move on, some of you remember the school lunch plates. This was a hard one to find. I mean, those of you who had this place before, first of all, it only cost a quarter. But what do you remember what you guys had to do? You guys had to work in a cafeteria to wash the plates and serve food and stuff like that. The kids nowadays are spoiled. They don't have to do that. And we go back to where the museum is at the agriculture department. And this is some of the tools that we found on the department. This actually is a wheelbarrow wheel. It's made of iron, so never flat. This is how they used to measure eggs before. The eggs go on and it goes up to medium, large, extra large. So it was, I guess, low tech, you know. This is a fire hydrant made of all copper. This here is a juicer. It's not like the Ninja juicers we have now. This is probably work really great. And what else we have on this wall is interesting. Oh, if some of you old time remember, this is a yardstick from Franklin's store in Kainaleo. As we move on to our technology, this is my phone when I first started Konawaena. Remember this? It's interesting because when we have students coming here, they never saw this kind of phone before. And they don't know how to use it.
They don't know how to dial, do they? That exact one was yours?
This exact one is mine.
Wow.
Then they upgraded me to this one.
Ooh.
But these are my exact phones from when I started. Why I kept it, I don't know.
Because you were bound to found a museum someday.
Yeah. And what else can we share?
All right.
Over here, we have a collection of the yearbooks. We have the very first copy and the one from 1921. We're missing about 13 years, I think. We don't have.
Okay.
Probably in the 60s. We don't have some of the 60s. But it's a pretty good collection.
Yeah.
Because when we first started museum, we only had about 10.
Wow.
So we came a long way.
And how did you get them? Did you just call out to the community and
Call out to the
people?
community. The school has some extras.
And it sounds like you found pieces within those yearbooks, right?
Yes,
You had found what did you find? The newspaper?
the
yeah.
newspaper, so a lot of
Wow.
graduation stuff in the yearbooks.
Yeah.
So we got a lot of information from these yearbooks.
Well, one of my favorite topics about the museum is how it was founded, how it was inspired, and some of your processes for getting all
Okay.
this stuff. So I think it's time to
Okay.
talk about the founding of the
Maybe we can show a
museum.
picture how the museum started.
Yeah.
Then we can sit down. The picture up there is a memorial. I know many of you who attended Konawaena have seen this memorial. It's above the football field. And I'll sit down with Audrey and I'll tell you how we got started.
Right.
Okay, how did the museum get started? This museum actually was a career center. And we was thinking ways how we're gonna decorate the museum. And somebody gave us a photograph of the memorial. And I asked them, what is this mark for? And they said, well, I don't know. It's for sports. Okay, then I asked somebody else and they said, no, it's for military. Okay. Then I started to research and I asked old timers, old principals, old teachers, and they said, I don't know, it always was there because the plaque was missing. So we had no idea who it was for. And so it got my curiosity going. And at that time, like the yearbooks I showed you earlier, we only had about 10. So I had to go sit in a school vault and go page by page whenever I had time. And it took a while. And I finally found, I'll show you this. You probably can't see it, but
There it is.
I found one picture with the plaque in the back.
Wow.
And I said, wow, okay, it's for McFarland. Then a question came, who is McFarland? Then I started to ask that question, who is McFarland? And nobody knew. So I was saying, oh, shoot, where do I go now? But one day, something made me call Billy Paris.
Okay.
And I said, Billy Paris, the memorial above the school is for Louis McFarland. Do you know him? And to my surprise, he said, yes, I used to go to his house. I said, you went to his house? Okay, tell me about him. So Louis McFarland was, I don't know the founder, but he led the Captain Cook Coffee Company.
He was the manager.
He was the manager.
Yes. Yeah.
Of Captain Cook Coffee Company.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he did a lot of good things to the community. And see, I always thought the memorial was built for the school, but it was actually built for the community.
Mm.
But the school was the base of the community
Right.
because Konawaena means the center of Kona.
Right.
So that's why it was placed on the school grounds. And let me backtrack a little. Before I talked to Billy, the church below us,
Christchurch.
yes, I found his gravesite. And it said, Louis McFarland. And the funny part is, this one is spelled Louis.
Mm-hmm.
And on the memorial is Levis.
On this photo here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got stumped and I said, is it a twin brother or? I wasn't sure. Then I asked Billy, I said, Billy, there's two Louis McFarlands. One is Levis and one is Louis. And he said, oh, Louis is how Catholics spell Louis. So it's the same person. I said, okay, that clears up a lot.
Yeah.
And thank God for Billy Paris because I would have never known that.
What an interesting process of historic research, finding all that out.
Yeah, so after all the research, I told the kids, we got to start saving the history of Konawaena because it's going to be lost. And at the same time, we researched, we said, hey, the school Centennial is coming up in 7 years.
Oh.
So we can make the museum part of the Centennial celebration.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because Konawaena High School is based on coffee.
Mm-hmm.
They had a coffee schedule, the whole community was coffee. And it's interesting how this museum got funded. it was, I think in 2011 or 12, when did the coffee board starting from?
Ooh, somewhere in there, because it's about 10 years now.
Yeah, so about 2011, Kona was beginning to get hit by the Kona coffee beetle. And Tommy Greenwell gave us a call and said, they cannot keep up with the artists if you want to make artists.
Mhm.
And I said, okay. And we started. Then he said, after a while, you guys go take over the business. You guys take the artists
Mhm.
directly. I said, okay. And I thought it was a small project, but we're doing about like 1,000 traps a week or more.
Wow.
So from the coffee board traps, it funded this museum. So this, to me, that's interesting.
And how much did you raise?
We raised almost $18,000.
Wow.
And the whole museum was
Yeah.
done by kids. It was painted by kids.
Yeah.
They helped decorate the room. They helped did research on the room.
And they made the traps and funded the.
They made the traps. And
Yeah. What I love about that story is that not only are they just fundraising for a museum, the very vehicle of fundraising, these traps
Mhm.
was helping the community as well. This was something that was
Yes.
needed
Mhm.
and speaks, I think, to the resiliency of Kona and Konawaena
Yeah.
together. What a beautiful sort of
So
start for the museum.
Yes, funny how it came full circle.
Full circle, that's the word, yes.
Konawaena was based on coffee.
Uh-huh,
The coffee industry helped build this museum,
yep,
and Tommy Greenwell introduced us to the traps
yes.
as a fundraiser. And the Greenwell family
Mhm.
donated part of this land for the high school.
Wow.
So it's just a full circle that came to pass.
And how much were you hoping to raise at the time?
I thought I was going to make $2,000. I was happy.
Wow. Wow, that's amazing.
So yeah, with the money, we painted the room, we carpeted the room, we bought all the furniture,
Yeah.
and you don't realize how much money it costs to do some projects like that.
Oh, yeah. So what is the museum now? How do students still get to engage with it and help build exhibits?
Right now, it's not fully in use, but probably about 4 years ago, I was running a mentorship program and an internship program, so the kids used to meet here.
Yeah.
And before that, it was a career center, so kids used to come and we said guest speakers.
Yeah.
So right now, it's kind of in question what we're gonna.
Yeah. Well, lots of things are after
Yeah.
COVID anyways.
Yes.
But what an incredible resource. What I love about hearing your story of how you came to found this museum and design it is the historic research process. So, digging through yearbooks to find, this is a photo, I don't know how well everyone can see. This is a photo of just some girls, I don't know what they're doing. They just happen to be standing in front of it. It's not a photo of the monument itself, but because they're standing in front of it, this little plaque right here was able to tell you about the research on that. So, and I know you gathered all these items from different teachers that had objects that they had stored in their classrooms and in the admin offices. And all of this, what I want to know is, what did you learn overall about historic research, about this kind of research? What did you learn? What is the best advice for getting curious about this sort of thing?
My best advice for history is take a lot of pictures. You never know when you're gonna need it, because
like that one, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's part of the school history when the school burned down and they built the new school.
Yeah.
There's no pictures of that.
Oh,
So
okay.
sometimes you think you're just taking pictures for nothing, but it will come around and it will be needed. So
yeah, that's true. This is throughout lots of museums, our museum, even at KHS too, these little pieces get left behind. It's funny to think about which kids ate their lunches on those trays and who washed those trays, and now that here they are in a museum preserved for everyone to know. So you never know what ordinary step you're taking is going to be
so even
long
just
lasting.
take pictures of the community and stuff, because it changes, and without pictures you never know what is looked out in the past.
Yeah, it changes in a minute, doesn't it? Well, we have a few, speaking of pictures, we have a few pictures that I wanted to show you from our archive. Some you may have seen and some you may not have seen. Our goal at the Historical Society with our archive and with opening up access for the archive is that people can pursue projects like this and see what we have. We don't have everything, but we have a lot. And so I wanted to show a couple more things that we have from Konawaena. I'm going to share my screen. There's one in particular that I think was pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see. I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna go up here. And this photo here, I was just searching for photos of Konawaena, see what else we have. Of course, we have lots because that was documented a lot. But this one I thought was very cool. You guys are gonna see this is if you come into our archive, this is the system that you use to search now. It's new. Our new collections manager has made this available. So this is at our archives. But what I loved about this is the building we're in right now.
This is.
And the reason we know that is because you let us know, you verified this for us by Maverick Kawamoto. So we've been doing a really fun project. I think it's got to be a year by now. I don't know if you've seen it. We put weekly mystery photos in West Hawaii today. And it's so fun because we always get, right after they go in, we get all these phone calls from people identifying buildings or people or time periods or teams, something like that. But that's one of the most important resources we have is our community to be able to identify things.
And this building here,
Yeah,
like I mentioned, was the oldest building.
Is the
And
oldest
this
building.
building came from across the street. It was part of the elementary building before.
so we need to really update this to have even, see, we have a question mark here. See, and now that I've met with you, I can let Julie know we can update this. See how we have Future Farmers of America building question mark, which it may have been if it was the agriculture building.
Yeah, it was an
Okay.
agriculture building.
So that's accurate, but it has even more history, and you have that history contained.
It came
so-
across from the elementary school.
Yeah.
And the reason I know that because looking to the yearbooks,
Uh-huh.
I saw this building across the street. And then the next yearbook, it was on this side of the street and
Oh my gosh.
and the elementary had a empty void space.
Wow, putting all these little puzzle
Yeah.
pieces together, so
It's
interesting.
cool.
So we have that photo to show. Just I thought that as I was looking
Mhm.
through, I saw your name and I thought, okay, I'm going to talk about that. This is one photo I'd love to know more about if anybody knows. This is the description says it's the first meat wagon of the W.H. Greenwell Ranch Meat Market in front of the teacher cottages here at
Mhm.
Konawaena School. And the cottages are still in
They're
use.
still in use, but it's now Ehunoi.
Oh, right, okay. So this is another fun photo.
Mhm.
There's so many photos of different things that Konawaena has been or had,
Mhm.
like I didn't know anything about the farm, the petting
Oh.
zoo, or the petting farm, I guess. So there's that one. This one may look familiar if any of you joined our From the Collections last year. Have you seen this one?
I
This is
saw
at the
this one.
elementary. So this is donkey baseball.
Mhm.
And I believe this is at the elementary school, right? But it's another fun example of something we have in our archive. We solved this mystery last year. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And that could be our building too.
Yeah, exactly. This is, there's a whole collection from the collections, me with Miley Melrose on this one, but
Mhm.
this was a fundraiser that they liked to do back in the 1930s where you rode around donkeys and
Mhm.
played baseball. So that happened here. And then we've got the Ben Franklin store. This is all lit up for Christmas in this photo. We actually have quite a few photos. And together, actually, after we're done with our program, Maverick and I are going to select one to go up in the museum to be over in the tools
I remember
section.
this store when I was small
Uh-huh.
and coming from Kohala, which we came to Kona very few times, but
Ah.
I couldn't wait to go in Ben Franklin.
Oh yeah, so many fun things to
Yeah.
get. Well, it looks so beautiful, all lit up for Christmas there.
Mhm.
And the last photo I wanted to share
Oh,
is
cool.
this one. Recognize that guy?
Yep.
There he is.
That's who started the museum.
That's Louis McFarland, who probably had no idea that one day he would be the inspiration for founding a museum, for
Yeah.
the founding of this
So
museum.
true.
So there he is looking very dapper in his suit. So he again is the manager of the Captain Cook Coffee Company, or he was the manager for a long time there. And so we have a lot of information on him in the society as well. But the significance here is that curiosity about him led to the
museum,
creation of this museum. If I was in high school here, this would have been my dream to have a high school with a museum. So I love that that's available. We do have a few more minutes. If anyone has any questions, let's see, I'll go ahead and stop our screen share, bring it back to us. If anyone has any questions, we can stay on for a few more minutes. We are just about out of time. We have about 5 more minutes. But I want to say thank you so much for
Oh, no
showing us
problem.
around. We're really glad to be able to participate in the Centennial celebration, at least to some extent. You guys had your Centennial on the 16th, but that video is still up and available for
Yes,
viewing,
it's
right?
still on Konawaena Centennial Facebook.
And what can they see in that video if they wanted to go check it out?
Oh, they can see our program, what we did, guest speakers, musicians, and it was a fun event.
I saw last year that you guys were looking for the oldest surviving graduate of
Yes.
Konawaena High. Were you able to find them?
Yes.
Who was it?
Miss Como, I think she was 102 years old.
Oh my
And
gosh.
she does a live interview on the Facebook.
Oh, wow. And where does she live now? Is she still here?
Oahu. I think.
Oh, Oahu.
Yes.
Wow. So you guys can check that out online on the Konawaena Centennial Facebook page on the video there. And this is also going to be available up to view as well. Oh, we have one question. Let's see, from Priscilla. She says, how was Konawaena impacted by the Second World War? Do you know anything?
I'm not sure. I didn't research that part.
Oh, okay.
But one interesting fact is we did on the, you can pass me that
Oh, yeah.
we did Susan Suzuki took pictures of all the yearbook covers for 100 years. And the only year was missing was 1942, which they believe was a war. So might have had not, school might have not been in operation.
It might just not exist.
Yeah, it might not exist.
Oh, speaking of that, actually, talking about impacts of major events, you had shared with me when I came to meet with you last week, you guys had tried to look up the attendance for 1921.
Yes.
And what did you find?
Well, actually, we wasn't looking up, but they were cleaning out the office and they found a box, and in the box had the attendance record from 1921. And as Principal Suzuki is looking through the records, 1921 in March was blanked. Nobody came to school, and
anybody know why?
In big letters said influenza, a pandemic.
The pandemic.
100 years ago, and 100 years ago we had COVID.
Did you guys share that with some of your students, that fact?
I don't know.
That's sort of interesting.
Yeah.
I know when we were doing like virtual field trips for kids and stuff, we would talk about how, well, kids used to go to school at home and, trying to bring some normalcy. So it's interesting that 100 years previous, nobody was in school because it was another global pandemic. So we're sure glad that they're in school this year anyways. So that's one of the ways that was impacted. All right, does anyone have any other questions? Let's see. All right, anything else you want to share before we go ahead and sign off?
One interesting fact, I made history too this year.
Tell me.
I was substituting in a class in August, I believe August, and had a student in there. I recognized the last name and asked him, who is Thomas? And to my surprise, he said, that's my grandfather. I said, oh no. That means I've been at Konawaena for 3 generations.
Oh my gosh. Wow, that's incredible. Well, congratulations.
I normally have, that's my dad. I said, yeah, I had your dad as student, but never somebody told me, yeah, that's my grandfather.
That's your grandfather. You've arrived.
I'm arrived.
You can safely retire. You got through the Centennial, founded the museum. Time for retirement.
Yes.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad to be able to host this program. I do want to just make a little shout out for our donation page. We are in the middle of our annual campaign. So if you feel like donating to our mission, we're trying to raise $100,000 this year for this campaign. So and we are celebrating not 100 years. Konawaena has been around longer, but we are celebrating 45 years at the Historical Society. So we're pretty excited for that. All right, thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next month. We'll announce the topic soon. Mahalo.
Mahalo.